And so I do wonder if there is a supervisor. Do you think it's rented?
Well, that's if it's a person. Yes. The penultimate episode of Skeleton Crew has come and gone, and this is typically my favorite of our podcast, where we break down an episode, but we also do our finale predictions. And so that's today's episode, and we have a really good episode to break down, and probably like a million questions for the finale.
Yeah,
so I think
that's true. Very
I
true.
think this should be actually a pretty good bit of fun. So what we're going to do, per the usual, it's going to be our ranking the episode. We'll talk episode 7, but we're going to probably like cut episode 7 back a little bit, because there's no telling where we are going to go on what we think is going to happen in episode 8. So that's what's going to happen. I'll have the chapters down below if you're like curious where all that happens. I'll put that there for you. But Kevin, let's go ahead and hop in on our episode 7 grades. Now, for me personally, I'll go ahead and throw this out there. It wasn't as good as 5 or 6,
but
fair. It's as good of an episode 7 that we've had in a Star Wars show since probably like Mando season 2, right? Like, or a penultimate episode, we'll say, since Mando season 2, when it's gearing up to go get Grogu back from Moff Gideon. Everything else, that next to last episode, has almost came in a little flat for me, but not here. So I'll give it a 7.5.
I think I've put it at an 8. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Have some really good moments with our characters again. There's some parts that get rushed along, I think, just for narrative purposes. But I there really wasn't much in this I didn't like, and I think ultimately how I feel about this episode will also be based on how they close it out. Right, because a setup is only as good as its conclusion. So we'll have to see how it holds up. But I mean, I like where we are. Talking about episode 7's, like, I feel like a lot of the other shows, they do very contained episodes where there's some level of closure to each episode, even before they're going into a finale. But man, they did not hesitate to end right on a cliffhanger with this. So. It really kind of amps up the tension going into the next episode, which I like.
Yeah, it was really nice. I guess the Mandalorian episodes do a really good job. Even in season 3, they left you on a cliffhanger there too. That was where like Paz Vizsla goes down in the next to last episode. The Mandalorian does a pretty darn good job with those in each season. But like, you watch all the other Star Wars shows, I mean, the next last episode in Andor, I felt like kind of ended a little weird before it went in, right? Like it's where he's washed up on shore on that planet or something like that. And so Kenobi, I mean, wasn't incredible. Book of Boba Fett was the next to last episode where Mando hijacks it, or I don't even remember
was that the next last one. I couldn't even tell you what the next last episode was.
And then in the Acolyte, it's like, that was not a good episode. It was a rehashing of episode 3. So like, it was really cool. Again? It was the rehashed flashback. Yeah. So like, it was cool to see though, like an episode that just leaves you ready for the finale. So that's where we're at. Let's jump into episode 7. So episode 7 really had 2 to 3 take-home points. So I think 1 is we get the true Jod. 2, we get a lot of AT-AT really in kind of a short period of time. And then 3, I guess, I don't even know if this would count, because the kids almost seemed off to the side in this one a little bit. Like it was Jod-centric, this episode was. But the kids finally get home. And so that's a big thing. So maybe that ties in with AT-AT into a bit. But let's talk about just how bad Jod actually is. Like, how awesome was that? Everyone thought we were going to have a flashback or whatever, and Jude Law had said that episode 7 you're going to learn a lot about Jod. So we were all thinking as Star Wars fans, ooh, we're going to learn flashbacks, because that's how Star Wars does in these TV shows. We get flashbacks of Order 66 or flashbacks of this or that. And we got no flashbacks. Learning a lot about Jod was just his true colors really shown in this episode. And now he's just like the biggest heel in all of Star Wars after that episode. It's so good.
Yeah. And I feel like they lull you into kind of a false sense of feeling like you've seen the bad side of Jod, right? Back in episode 5, when he turns on the kids, he takes the captaincy, but he's not like threatening them. He's just like, you're going to come with me. Like, and he doesn't try to get rid of them. You know, he's going to take them with him. Obviously he wants hostages, but you're like, okay, we saw this coming, right? Like, we know he was at some point going to try to take over. Because then they go right back to really kind of the same Jod, where he's just talking to the pirates. It's very much like the Jack Sparrow thing, where he's constantly finding another thing to talk about so that they don't throw him out an airlock. So I feel like they kind of lulled you into a sense of like, oh, okay, we've seen Jod's bad side. But then we really see it. And I feel like that's when he drops all pretense of trying to sway or pretend anymore. And he's like, okay, I'm done doing all the games.
Well, we get to that scene. We'll show a few seconds here in a minute, but like they pull the kids in on the tractor beam because they show up at Atten right after the pirates do.
Yeah,
and that's when they realize, oh, we need that ship to get in, and so they get the kids on the tractor beam, pull them in, and then the kids get Brutus with the claw, which I thought was funny.
That's great.
They pulled that off. KB's doing the voice. That was like their big shenanigans for this episode, and I jumped at this scene, so I'll play it real quick just for a few seconds. Like, that was my face for all of that. Like, everything that they just did.
Yeah.
Like, when he walks up to Brutus and just takes care of him, like, I was not expecting that in the least. And at that very point, I knew that Jod meant business.
Yeah. And the show's been so goofy and silly at times. Like, the claw coming down and grabbing Brutus is just like so goofy, right? And it's like the kids doing it. And one of the things I really like about this point is that, like, this is a big turning point for the kids too, because I was thinking about this. They haven't seen anyone die throughout the entirety of the show until this point. And they see Jod kill someone right in front of them. And so it's this weird juxtaposition, because they were just talking on the ship like, man, it's been a great adventure. Like, it's been so much fun. Like, they still have some of that innocence. But it's just kind of like, you can only be out in the world so long and that stay intact. And so I feel like that moment that Jod shows himself is also the moment that the kids kind of get a bit of a reality check. And so it goes from being goofy, haha, Brutus is in the claw, and then it just goes to, Jod, cold-blooded murder in front of the kids, right? And so it was a really good scene, because it goes to show you he really doesn't care about the kids. He doesn't care about what they see. He doesn't care about what they see him do. It was all
the money.
Yeah, all of it was the charade. And so now we see, I think from this point on, it's Jod. Like, it's not Jod pretending, trying to sway, trying to charm. Like, this is Jod.
It's Captain Silvo. That's what he's about.
I like that scene a lot.
Now, we have had people point out that, like, it wasn't necessarily in cold blood, because Brutus did say he was gonna, kill Jod either way. So
there's some self-defense there.
Bit of self-defense there, kind of getting ahead of the 8 ball, probably. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, they're pirates. They're not honorable people. They're not pretending to be. But it did seem like everybody was kind of like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Myself included. So that was like the first instance we see of Jod really showing some colors there, showing a little bit of evil, if you will. I think that's a fair word to use. And then throughout the episode, I mean, he takes charge of that ship just so quick, and everybody, which I think when you take out their captain right in front of their eyes, it kind of gets everybody on board. But everybody is like, all right, let's go. And so everything from there out, he's so intentional getting to this planet to get the money, or to get, whatever it is. But then the kids, so the kids, like, they realize that ship's going to be the one that can actually make it through the big, whatever, the clouds, barrier, whatever it is, the gases barrier. And it's true. And they get through it. You see Atten's in the middle of it, which was really neat. And then they're talking about, like, oh, we made it. And then you hear Jod talking in the background. And another one of those, I don't want to call it a jump scare, but just a moment we were not expecting here.
It's rough. 433.
Yeah, right. Like, oh my goodness. I thought he was gonna punch Jod again. That was my thoughts. That he was just gonna knock Jod out because he had already done it once. And no, Jod just takes out the beloved droid SM-33. And can you say cold blood if he was going to knock you out? I don't know. But again, he went right after him, off with his head. And so I was super shocked at that scene. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, because now the kids have seen him shoot somebody and then take out really what is the closest thing they've had to a friend on this adventure of theirs. I mean, to them, it's like a whole new Jod. Like, it's a completely different person than they just spent the last however many days with, thinking that maybe he was not such a horrible guy. But he quickly demonstrates to them that's not the case. And so, it was quick dispatch of 33. Kind of like you said last night on the recap. I thought he was going to just like force push him or something.
Yeah.
But no, just lightsabers him. He means business right now.
Yeah. You think just by the way he's like handling the lightsaber, I've seen it both ways. Some people are like, oh, he seems so experienced with it, but I thought it seemed kind of clunky the way he's kind of holding it around. I don't know that he's had a ton of lightsaber experience.
To me, it seems like a guy just swinging a sword, like you would swing any type of weapon that you pick up.
Right.
It didn't strike me as particularly graceful, but
I was gonna say kind of like Finn, you know, in the sequels a little bit. Yeah. You know, it's a sword. It's
because he obviously knows how to fight. I mean, he's
he's a pirate.
He's been fighting for a while.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, so that was another shocking thing where you're like, he is singularly focused on this treasure, the money, and nothing will stop him. And so that was a big moment. And then we get to the end of the show here. And you've got this where like the kids are getting their happy moment after Jod's just looked in the treasury.
It's a great final scene.
And then there he is. I mean, come on. I
really like the zoomed out shot right there.
Yeah.
That's great.
How good is that?
Just with the vault and just that expanse and just them like alone in that room and Jod and the lightsaber. That's such a good shot there.
And it leaves you wondering so much, like, where do we go from here? Because the possibilities, again, like we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I mean, they're on a bridge there with a guy who can use the Force with a lightsaber, who has got what he wants.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? They don't stand a chance against him. So I don't know. It's interesting. He seems to really be a crummy person at this point, I think, is the.
Yeah. What did you think about his little tirade when he goes off on the kids on the ship?
Oh, that was so cold, right? Yeah. Like how you're spoiled, you're annoying. Yeah. I've got a headache. He's
like mocking him. He's like, poor boy. Yeah. Poor boy. Man, he's got some issues. Like, I'm not sure how much of Jod's history we're going to get at this point, but I feel like there's some interesting stuff there just based on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think even going back to when he's recounting like the tale of Captain Renid, right? He's talking about him. Like the thing that he really hits on is like he could take anything he wanted. And like that was like the big appeal to Jod, like being able to have the self-reliance to take whatever you want anytime. Like that's a bit like not needing anybody. And then he has that conversation with Wim where he's like, you got to cut people out of your life. And now he's telling them like, you're weak, you're spoiled, you're pathetic. Like I don't know if he's like got some abandonment issues or something, but it's clear that he's bitter, like really bitter about something.
Yeah.
And I think it shows in that scene where he goes off on the kids that this is, he wants his treasure, but like the way he goes off on them and tells them to stop talking and to shut up, like coming from a guy who survives by talking, like it's pretty hypocritical, but also he just seems so bitter right there. Like there's something bothering him, it feels like. And I wish we could find out what.
I don't even think we're going to get much more on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Know. Like maybe like, I think we probably get some reveal on like who he is or something, maybe, but I don't see flashbacks or anything because I think we know all we need to know. When he goes on that big rant that you were just talking about, the way I took that is we don't necessarily know how long this adventure's been going. You assume a few days at least, probably longer than that. I mean, they can travel wherever, but it seems like it's been a little bit. And so what I see that is a guy who is not a good person to his core having to really put on a charade with a bunch of middle school aged kids for a while
at his limit.
I mean, yeah. And so I feel like it almost thrown out of an airlock a couple times. I feel like he finally gets to the point to where he can just like let it all go. And oh my goodness, he's been putting on the charade of all charades. And as most humans know, you can't fake something just a super long time until the real you comes out. And I think he kind of hit his wall there.
That's true.
And that's how I took that. Is I don't necessarily say I took it as like he's got some issues or whatever. I mean, I'm sure he does, but I just took it as like he can't put on this show anymore, and he doesn't have to.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely at his limit there with them. I just think he's been written to be really interesting. And I think there's a reason we all want to know what his backstory is. It's because he's just a really intriguing character.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll see. Maybe they just leave him as a mysterious character. Maybe we don't get the details.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that too. Like I want to know, but the way they've written him, it's one of those where I'm kind of cool if they don't. Like if he just turns out the way he is, because how many Star Wars characters would we just be so disappointed to not get that much in? And with Jod, for me personally, it's a situation to where I'm really okay with what they've put on screen through 8 episodes, and he's going to be one of my favorite. Pending something crazy here, he's going to be one of my favorite Star Wars characters, like new Star Wars characters that they've made, hands down.
That's a good point, because it's not like he's not a fleshed out dynamic character, right? We have one bit of information we all really want to know, but it really hasn't been to the detriment of him being this really great character. And so, sometimes it's okay for people to stay a mystery. I don't think I would mind if we don't find out. As interested as I am, Jod Nanawood may just be a mystery.
Nanawood. I think too. Some characters are perfect for comic books, and he's a good comic book character too. I feel like they could tell a lot of Jod stories in comic books, animation, stuff like that. So wouldn't surprise me if he finds his way to the illustrated section or to the
you might be right
Tales of the Pirates show, something like that. I could totally see that going on, and like each episode is just a different alias that Jod has.
That would be great. That would be funny. Yeah, I'd watch that. That'd be good.
Yeah, that would be a fun one. So kind of moving from Jod into AT-ATN on episode 7, we do learn some interesting stuff about AT-ATN. So we learn that no ships can get through unless it's an AT-ATN ship. We also learn that they have this really high regard for Republic emissaries. And so we know that they have some expectations that they will be coming. And we also know that the people working on AT-ATN are kind of in on the whole secretive deal, because they get that hologram that they put up at the beginning, and they get it on the pirate ship. And Wim's dad, I forget it, Wendell, he says, don't tell anyone where you're from. You weren't supposed to learn about this till you graduate.
Yeah.
So all the adults, to an extent, are kind of in on it. And to me, that was surprising.
It was, because I kind of think we all felt like that everyone was in the dark a little bit, the way that they were showing the parents. But apparently they're aware of what they're doing there. Now, the way the communication goes on the planet and everything's blocked, I still doubt they have any idea what's gone out in the galaxy as a whole. And so I still think that could be really interesting. But they obviously know what they're doing at this point, which, I don't know, there's still a lot of mystery surrounding AT-ATN. Like, even though we know what's going on there and what the treasure is, like, just the nature of like the jewels of the Republic, and we see that these other planets apparently had barriers, right? When they go to AT-ATN, you can see those satellite things that have apparently shut off. And so apparently they all had barriers of some sort. But like, did they make these planets to have the right resources to be a mint? Like, what? I'm still curious as to, because the planets are seemingly somewhat similar, identical, based on AT-ATN and AT-ACRN. So it still lends the idea that they were formed some shape roughly to be similar. And so were they formed to have the resources they need to be a mint? Like, what is the mystery surrounding like why these planets are here, and why?
Or does each one,
are they different? Like, do they have different functions? Like,
that's what I was going to say. Each one's supplying something.
Yeah, maybe Ad Akron made weapons. Maybe that's what happened there.
Yeah.
They had an abundance of
that
weapons.
That would make
there.
a lot of sense. Yeah, because they all kind of got it. When they go down into this
a lot
vault,
of interesting stuff. Yeah, that's a cool shot.
How cool is that? Jod's just, his mind is blown going in there. I thought that was so good when that was going on. And then he finally gets into the vault.
Yeah.
Let's see if I hit an advertisement. I did not. Look at that. They have got the money.
Yeah. And he said there's like 1,100 other vaults or something.
Yeah, tons of them. It was almost like going into like a Harry Potter vault. Did you kind of get like?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
When it was all going, like he had finally found his money. He was like maniacal that he had found his money. So,
oh man, and
that's the thing with Atten is they are definitely a money planet, and Jod thinks he's got to his money. That's kind of the funny thing with me is like, okay, he's a Republic emissary showing up, but what does one guy think he's gonna do with all this gold?
Yeah, and man, I think I was telling you last night, like his reaction when he finds that gold, like tells you everything. Like that's the most emotion, like pure emotion we see out of Jod is when he finally gets his treasure. So I don't even think it matters how much it is. It's just that he has it, right? I think it represents that I've made it, like I've done it type of idea. And man, he looks like he's on the verge of tears when he finds that stuff.
Just straight up like jubilant that all that gold's falling on him. Yeah. And so I think that's a good spot. I don't have much left for episode 7 because I feel like our conversation's already kind of going towards where can this go in episode 8, talking about Atten. So
one more last thing I really did like was I did like the return of Claimsies.
Claimsies.
Yeah, that was great. Bringing that back in from episode 1.
That was really good. Yeah.
And I love 33's role in that because I feel like throughout the show we're thinking Jod's going to come around, like he's going to do something. The kids are going to grow on him, but really that was 33, right? It was 33 who's the one who really grew fond of the kids, and he was just looking for an excuse to bend the pirate code, right? So it's like, I'd be close enough. So,
he's like, I'd be close enough. Yeah, that was really good.
That was a great scene. And I love that we get to see 33. Like, he really does choose these kids over the pirates, which I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah, and when he does that deal where he bows up and starts going, like that's happened a few times.
Got those little arm shields.
Yeah. So it happened in like really early on in the second episode. He did it, and then
pirate base.
Yep, he does it again with on the episode where he kind of goes crazy, whatever that was for, and then does it again this episode. But Jod takes his head off. But yes, very good scene.
That was fun.
Now, the finale, I think there are potentially 3 really big reveals that we could get in the finale, or at least 3 big topics around reveals, right? So I think we're going to have to get an Atten reveal. They can't just leave us hanging. We're going to have to learn what the deal is with that. I think we probably get the reveal of who the supervisor is. I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but I think the supervisor plays a big role in the next episode. And then 3, I think we do get, I feel like we learn who Jod is to some shape, form, or fashion. I feel like there is some bone they will throw with him to the fans. So I think that's the 3 really big points that they're probably going to hit in this next episode.
That makes sense. I mean, because that's really the big mysteries we still. I mean, because the supervisor's been a mystery for a long time at this point. It's been
the whole time
a myriad of theories about who this guy is, or if there even is still one, or if this is just a program run by droids. There's a lot of speculation that's going on about the supervisor.
Yeah.
And then of course, the more we learn about Atten, we still don't really understand like how this planet got here and who really runs it and who really started it and why it's been left behind in time. So there's a lot of questions surrounding both of those things. And so I hope you're right. I hope we get good answers to all of those. I think if we get good answers to all 3 of those things, I think most people will be pretty satisfied.
Put a bow on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think talking about the supervisor, I think that's an interesting one. So think about hierarchies, right? Like you can have a supervisor, but that not be the person calling the shots, if that makes sense.
That's
So
true.
it's interesting that the name specifically is supervisor, as if there's a hierarchy, because supervisor to me doesn't ring like CEO or president or king or whatever they want to do. So I'm pretty sure this supervisor, whoever it may be, one big possibility is that the supervisor is just overseeing this operations for some big evil person pulling the strings somewhere. We know it's not the New Republic because things don't turn out well for them. They have all kinds of issues. But for me personally, and if you go back to my prediction episode, when we talked about what we thought would happen for the whole season, our crazy one was I think Thrawn is going to show up, and that's what's going to be the thing that ties this whole show together. I think back to Morgan Elsbeth's ship, and I think the initial ship, where they make that jump to Peridia, and it's like gold everywhere.
That's true.
I mean, I know she was a warlord and just taking that one planet for all its resources, so there is that. But what if Thrawn and this little Imperial Shadow Council that's going on in Mando Season 3, what if all that is actually tying into this, and this whole thing is missing for a reason, and this is all kind of the contingency plan for when Thrawn shows back up and he needs resources to fight an entire republic? I would not be shocked at all if we see Thrawn's big old ship, Chimera, right? Just showing up over at Atten and ready for all the money he's going to need to fight a war. I would not be surprised at all if that's how they tie us in, because our next big project in this universe is the Mando movie.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, but I hope they're careful about it, because I don't want this to I don't want Thrawn coming in to be like something that defines the end of the show. Because they've done such a good job with these characters in this story. Like, it needs its own ending. So I that makes sense to me. Like, and it makes sense that Thrawn needs to fund, this remnant empire of his. But man, if they do that, I hope they just do it in a way that really doesn't steal from the show, and
in
that
passing,
might be hard to do.
Almost.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough one, because I've enjoyed how separated this show has been.
I have too,
and I don't want the expectation to be later on that these kids will show up in like another project in the Mandoverse, because I don't feel like this story does not fit in the Mandoverse. I don't think. It's very different.
Unless
the kids are different.
Peg it here.
Right. And so it like, I hope they don't go that route and start to try to incorporate these characters in that, because I don't feel like they fit. So that would be my biggest concern. Thrawn makes sense. I just hope they don't overdo it with Thrawn.
I really think this is how I envision the end of this. And like, you can picture is it Patton Oswalt in Parks and Rec when he's giving the Book of Boba Fett? Like, this intro. This is the in that same vein. This is me explaining the end, and we can clip this and show the ending of Skeleton Crew when it happens this way. But here it is: the good guys have just won. Jod has been knocked off into the vault, and he falls to his death or something. The supervisor turns out to be like a robot or something. And everyone's real happy. The kids are back with their parents. Atten has all their money. And the closing scene, and I mean just seconds of it, you don't even necessarily see Thrawn, but it just ends with a chimera coming out of hyperspace above the planet. Credits. It's over.
That would be okay. That would at least connect them. I don't know that I like that as an end scene, but
I think that's
I guess it comes down to personal preference. But here's one of the things I was thinking about with this show is they have not let anything that they've brought up throughout the course of the show not come back around and be important, right? Whether it's
going to be Renaud
claimsies, or whether it's the whole DC, demolition button, like things have come back around pretty regularly. And we still have that scene where Kim tells KB, hey, call me if you need me. And so that's one of the big reasons I think it might be the New Republic that shows up. But I don't know that they get the treasure. Like, I'm more inclined to think that something happens to the Mint. Like the vault, like it gets destroyed, it collapses.
Yeah.
Maybe it falls into the core of the planet. I don't know. But then there's actually, we don't even know if this is the only Mint on this world. Like, is this the only place on this world that's doing this? But I can definitely, I see Jod, I see his downfall being his greed, right? I feel like we've had enough kind of the cliche pirate stuff, not in a bad way, but like this has been a very like to the tradition pirate tale in a lot of ways. So I can see him like his fate being tied to the treasure and he goes with it or something like that. I feel like that would fit this show pretty well.
That would be good. I think that would be a very fitting in for Jod. He gets what he wants, but it's not what he needed, right? Like that's how the bad guy story should end. And it turns out Jod is the bad guy. So I do like that. We agree on that. I think now here's another thing. Do you think 33 is the one who gets the final blow on him? Like, do you think KB and the kids put him back together while he was in the vault?
I don't know how quick you can put him back together. I don't think he's, for some reason in my head, I feel like this is going to be the type of show where it ends and the kids are walking around and then 33 pops up at the end and he's been put back together and he's fine.
Yeah, could be.
But maybe they did. Like, they've been hanging out in the ship for a little while. KB's a pretty smart one. So maybe she did get him back functioning pretty quickly. I don't know. I mean, well,
I was just going to say, like, as far as shows go, like, time isn't always linear, if that makes sense, right? Like when he's in that vault, who's to say that wasn't like 20 minutes or something like that? And so then they have enough time to like just put his head back on or something. I don't know.
I did think it was weird. I thought it was weird that the parents were able to get down there. Like, it seemed like everything was locked down and then they just kind of show up on that lift.
Yeah, I assume the robots just took them down there.
Yeah,
but no, I thought I wasn't expecting to see them down there. I thought they were like, oh no, we're gonna have to wait till the kids to get back up. But then they were there. That's a little plot device.
Which I like
to get
better.
Everybody you care about in one spot for this.
I think that was good.
Big finale. That was pretty good. Who do you think the supervisor is going to be?
Yeah, I was about to say. So we agree on Jod. You got Empire. I got New Republic. So now we're at
that's fun,
supervisor.
Right? So it is flip of the coin.
Man,
we're probably both wrong.
I wouldn't be surprised if here's the thing. I think it would be a good ending for Wim to meet a Jedi. And so if the supervisor turns out to be, but here's the thing, if the supervisor turns out to be a Jedi, I'm not sure how good of an individual he is at this point, because this all seems pretty sketchy still. Unless it's just somebody in hiding, right? Then we get another Order 66 survivor. I don't know.
Oh, please no.
So yeah, I'm kind of torn about that. I saw where the voice actor for the supervisor's voice was Stephen Fry.
Okay.
Who's a pretty well-known British actor.
Okay.
But I don't see, the thing too is that message that comes on totally just sounds recorded, right? Like,
oh yeah.
And so I do wonder if there is a supervisor, or if he's gone, or maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Do you think it's rented?
Well, that's if it's a person. Yes.
Okay.
If it's a person, I do think it's rented.
Yeah.
If it's not a person, which seems more likely considering how many hundreds of years this has been, like it's gonna have to be an alien species one. If it's, because this doesn't seem like a contingency plan type supervisor deal, right? Where there's been multiple supervisors. Yeah. This seems almost like a deity. So either one, the supervisor is programming inside the robots just from Palps, Plagueis, Thrawn, you name it, right? Any big bad in Star Wars, whoever's really pulling the strings behind this, or it's rented. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
And the rented thing would be a little complicated because one, that would mean 33 has to be wrong, right? Because he said he got stabbed by his concubine. So,
Yeah.
Which the kids are like, "What's
he
that?"
Did say
He's
that.
like, "We're not talking about that anymore.
I forgot
That's
about
enough of that."
that.
That was a
he
funny
did
scene.
say that.
So does he get stabbed in the back and then survive the crash of the ship and go on to be the supervisor? That seems like a lot. And how does a ship crash and a guy just take over this thing without anybody knowing? That kind of seems like a lot.
That's the big question. Like, how does he show up and talk these people into him being the supervisor of the place? So it seems
there's a lot of questions with that.
It's very fan fiction-ish. If it turns out to be that way. Now Ashley, when we were talking about it, she's finally almost coming around to Skeleton Crew. She still has a lot of criticism, but she thinks that the supervisor is going to be Jod's dad, and a lot of people think Renard might be Jod's dad. So how crazy would it be if it's? They would be so cringy, but it's like I'm your father situation.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what the overlap is with Renard and time-wise, because Jod talks about it like this legend.
It takes a while for skeletons to happen, right? And you've got skeletons
and that
on
ship's obviously been there for a
ships.
long time. And this is, it sounds like towards the end of Renard's illustrious pirate career. I mean, the way Jod describes it, he had been doing this for a pretty long time. He had that whole layer.
What happens.
So, could it be Jod's dad? I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Seems odd.
That would put Jod from At-Atten, which doesn't really maybe explain a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it is. But I've kind of been going through some Reddit forums just to see what the voice of the people seems to be saying, and a lot of people think it's Renard, Jod's dad, whatever. I'm firmly in the camp of this is an Imperial thing. It just makes way too much sense for it to be either an Imperial or First Order type thing.
Yeah, I obviously we could be completely wrong. I don't think it's Renard either, but I mean we didn't write the show, so
it'd be kind of cool if he comes out and
it's not that I don't want to see him. I think that'd be interesting.
Captain.
Just make sure you give an explanation of how he got there.
Yeah.
That's all I would want.
You think this episode's going to be longer than 45 minutes? I don't.
No. I mean,
we're always wanting more, but
here's the weird thing about the last few episodes is they haven't been long, but they haven't felt short. They've used their time really well. Yeah, they've used their time really well the last few episodes. They're in that 35, 36 minute range, but they feel like they've accomplished a lot in a good way. So, I feel like they could do a lot with a 45-minute episode based on what they've done with their 35-minute episodes. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
You have any other big predictions?
John Watts is back to directing this one, so he bookends it.
That'll
episode
be good.
1 and episode 8.
That's appropriate.
Which I loved episode 8. I thought it was great. I thought it was perfect.
So let's go here. I put out a question to my subs on YouTube, and we got one reply, so that's one more than usual.
See what they think.
So this is my cousin here, Crazy J Caldwell 9 says he thinks Jod's going to go out like Long John Silver from the Muppet Treasure Island movie.
Nice.
So yes, he's bad, but in the end, he just can't bring himself to be ultimately bad. So he escapes with the treasure, and then the ship sinks into the ocean. That would be an appropriate ending for Jod.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect ending, that he goes down with his loot.
Yep.
It's very
I hope that's how he goes out in some
for a
shape,
guy
form,
who
or
wants
fashion.
to be the greatest pirate, that is the what greater final act of a pirate than to go down with your treasure. So
yep. You're going down with what you wanted. He also thought that Renard would be the supervisor. So that seems to be a popular theory. Yeah. Now, just a few like little predictions here. I do see KB and probably her parents end up having some kind of role where in this battle or whatever it ends up being, I could see them doing some tech stuff, kind of like R2 and C-3PO would usually help the heroes. I can see Fern kind of taking on the Princess Leia role here at the end with her mom and taking charge, because I think we're going to have the parents with the kids as they're
all
going
kind
of
go
this.
And do kind of like a certain
I do
role.
think so.
would be cool.
We're gonna have like Wim having the big role, and I think Neil is gonna be Brave. I think that's what's gonna be the big thing there.
That would be cool for the parents to see how their kids have grown up and how they've kind of learned what's good and what's right. That would be neat. I would like that.
I think Neil's going to have a really wholesome Brave moment in this ending. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking to the reunion with his siblings. That's going to be fun.
Yes, I want to see those little kids.
Yeah,
they're like the cutest creatures in Star Wars.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So that's
second.
Be good.
One more thing though is like, what happens to these kids on this planet?
They know too much.
That's a huge question that I feel like we don't have any hints on. Like, is what happens to these kids at the end of the story? Like, do you stay on barrier hidden planet that's a super secret mint, right? Like,
I think they leave with their parents.
Yeah. I would not mind at all to pick back up with these characters on another adventure somewhere. Like, they've been written so well. They've been so fun to watch. And so is there going to be another season? I don't know, but I hope they find a way to leave space for the adventures of these kids to continue. Even if they're a little older, I'll take it. It's just been so good. And I'd hate to leave these characters and be done with them.
I firmly believe that they have finally, not that I have not loved a lot of Star Wars that's happened. I'm not about to be the anti-Disney Star Wars fan, because I'm going to Disney World tomorrow. So, but
I'm giving them
when you're watching this, I'm currently there. But
it's funny.
But has all of the creative decisions been great with marketing, planning, setup, all that stuff? I guess marketing's been fine, take that out, but the planning and where the story's going, it has not always came off as polished. If they come in here and tell a beloved story, you go Rotten Tomatoes, you go watch reviews, the very few and far between that are doing their usual Disney woke junk where they just complain about everything, right? That's kind of been a lot less for this show. Very good critic reviews, good fan reviews, and then all of a sudden at the end of this you give a just completely stellar ending and then set up a promo for your movie that comes out in 15 months, 16 months. You set that up and give people a year of speculation of where this movie is going now that no one's even thinking about because we're watching a show. How genius would that be going into a movie on a high note?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of this success carries over to other shows. I mean, it's this show had the benefit of not needing to connect pieces, which I think did it a huge service. Because it's a lot easier to tell a story when you don't have to worry about whether it contradicts X, Y, Z or goes along with this other thing. Or, so the show itself has been great, and it is smart, right? Because after this, you got Andor coming up, which season 1 was pretty well received. People were pretty on board with the show and the story, and so you're putting 2 stories back to back that I think will be really good for fans, right? Just to enjoy Star Wars, but also hopefully to, just get some of the positivity back on track and create some excitement again for, because people like us, we're always excited, right? Like we love Star Wars. Like we wouldn't sit here and talk about it for an hour all the time if we didn't, but not everybody's always excited about it. They need something to get excited about, and that's fine. And so if you can generate some excitement around it, then I'm all for it, especially if you're doing it with good content, like good, interesting stories. Like I'm here all day for that.
Yeah. Well, it's really, I don't know if they've done this on purpose or not. This may have just, the stars aligned. But again, Skeleton Crew, really good. Set up for that Mando movie. You've got Andor coming. Celebration in Japan is going to have all sorts of Revenge of the Sith. And it'll have, I think they're going to drop a Mando trailer, a teaser there. Then we're going to have Revenge of the Sith hitting theaters in May. And so they're going to have the Mando teaser playing at Revenge of the Sith, 20th anniversary in theaters. Then around Christmas time, I don't think they'll put The Force Awakens back in theaters for 10 years. But if you're talking sequel movies, people enjoy The Force Awakens. So I almost think 2025 is going to be such a fun Star Wars year. And it's just going to play right into that summer, spring of 26 with that Mando movie. And it's almost like they're playing smart with Star Wars.
Yeah. Is there a date on the Visions season?
Nah, probably drop May the 4th. I don't know.
That'll be
Forgot
fun.
About that. It'll be fun.
Yeah. I was just trying to think what was going on.
I'm not lumping that in with the season no, whatever, but it'll be fun. So I think there's a lot to be happy about.
Yeah, agreed.
And next week kicks it off with the finale.
Yeah, next week will be fun.
Skeleton Crew.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking ahead to our show though. So this calendar came from Poptography.
Nice.
Very cool desk calendar. One of the coolest Christmas presents I've got. Shout out Patrick.
Wait, so it's like all his? Is it his pictures?
It's all his shots. Yeah,
dude,
so
that's amazing. He's so good.
Yeah, he's like the best, right?
It's so cool.
Oh, Thrawn, that's going to be him next week.
I need to find out where I can grab one of those. Maybe he's got the info on his channel.
Yeah, shoot him a message. Tell him you'll buy one.
That is so cool. I love that.
But if you look at this, so you'll be watching this episode, about a half dozen of y'all will be watching it tomorrow on the 10th. The 17th, Kevin and I will be discussing all of Skeleton Crew, the finale, and what we thought of the season. The 24th, we're going to be previewing 2025 Star Wars. And then the 31st is going to be something new that we have not done before, but that thing I sent you yesterday where it's like you pick your Star Wars team.
Oh yeah, your starting
like
lineup.
You've got $15 and it's got like a whole tier of Star Wars characters. We're going to do that last week. So we're going to build our own Star Wars teams for
and we are
$15.
We are going to make some people mad.
And then so we're each making a team, and we're going to have, the audience is going to see who wins.
Oh, wow.
They're going to vote on who wins.
I'm not, this is the type of thing I'm not good at. I think too emotionally sometimes. I don't have the logic to,
it's going to be
like, but I really like this guy.
You're gonna choose like some,
I'm going to have like all ones.
Yeah. A whole bunch of Watto.
Yeah.
So that is it for our official Skeleton Crew finale show. Thanks for hanging around for our rambling, and we will catch y'all next week to break down how many different ways we were wrong about it. We'll see you next time.